Welcome back all, and thank you for being with us. We are LifeWallet Health. I am Dr. Octavio Fernandez, and very pleased to be joined by my friend and colleague, Dr. Manny Gonzalez Brito. Doc, good to see you.
Likewise.
How you been so far?
Well,
summer's going well.
Summer's going very well. I was with my family out in the sun. I put on my sunscreen, I put on my hat, and still I got a little bit of color.
All right, so you did watch the podcast that we did about sunscreen and using it appropriately and stuff. So
yeah, I took notes. Right. I gave a lecture to my kids.
Very
and then
good.
we did our best to adhere as best we could to the rules.
All right, awesome. We, like letting our audience know, we like to touch on some relevant topics, health related, obviously. We've got a good one today, and we're going to call it Test Tube Roulette.
Yes.
Because we've the errors of at-home COVID testing.
Yeah.
We've seen some issues.
Yes.
And let's, without getting any deep at all into COVID.
Yeah.
But COVID testing is still relevant. COVID testing still happens. The at-home tests I'm speaking about.
Yeah.
We still see them all over the pharmacies and stuff. And we have a particular product that is being recalled, if I am correct.
That's absolutely correct. COVID has turned a lot of things on their head and has brought, by necessity, the general population to kind of learn a lot about virology and basic science advancements that we've done over the last 50 years, over the last 24 months. And obviously that technology is not perfect, but the fact that we can detect viruses now with an in-home kit, it's pretty incredible. The problem is it's also the first time we're doing it en masse, and that's not going to be without its pitfalls.
And for sure, and going back to December of 19, when we first heard of this thing called the pandemic, right? Starting in Europe and then hitting us hard here in the States, somewhere in 2020, right?
Right.
So part of what we were doing was obviously, and everybody knows this, the testing that we were doing at home and things like that. And for the most part, pretty effective. But like with anything, like you just explained, doing things en masse is going to have its sometimes pitfalls or cracks or whatever.
100%.
And again, speaking of this one particular product, it's an in-home test.
Right.
That we're bringing to everyone's attention today. What's happening? What's the issue with the test?
Yeah.
And what are the problems with it, the dangers, and what can we do about it?
So the way these tests work is pretty incredible, the technology. So before, when you went to the doctor, back when we were small, or go to your pediatrician, or you're going into the hospital.
During horse and buggy?
Exactly.
All right.
In ancient times, we could only test for bacteria, meaning that we would get your blood or whatever tissue sample of your body and we put it on a culture. And then we'd wait a day, 2 days, 3 days to see if the bacteria grow. Now, we have developed cultures for different things like fungi, and also eventually did for viruses. But what we found that with viruses, that process for most viruses took on the order of weeks, not very clinically helpful if you have a cold or you have a significant disease to know if you had a virus or not.
Amazing. And these are 15 minutes.
Correct. So now we have these rapid tests. The way they work is that they detect a piece of the nucleic acid, or the, if you will, the DNA or the RNA of the virus for certain proteins or certain parts of their genetic material. And it does so with very little material, like sampling from your nose, sampling from your saliva, and you can do these now at home because the tests are designed, the paper is designed to have a reaction that'll then give you a line to see if it's positive or negative.
Right. With these tests in particular, and again, I'm always amazed at these advancements and things. It's fantastic.
Yep.
Apparently, there is a bacterial contamination. And probably most everyone that is watching us has used, at one point or another, one of these in-home tests.
Right.
And we know that there's a little tube that comes inside these kits with a liquid that activates the solution to activate the test.
That's right.
And with these tests in particular, there was a bacterial contamination, I believe.
That's correct.
So speak to us about what the dangers there are, or the issues with that.
Right. So it's been reported that in this solution, now the solution is part of the test because the way you do it is that you expose that paper to that contains then your material along with that solution, and that will make the color change if it's positive, or no change at all if it's negative. And then you have a control, meaning that there should be a reaction to make sure that we got a sample from you. Okay, so usually you'll have a control and then you'll have the positive, or you won't have it at all. Now the issue with that is that solution was found to have bacteria in it, different kind of waterborne bacteria. It wasn't completely sterile. That's one issue with it. The other, you want to leave it at there, and we'll talk about that.
Right. And that bacteria can cause, if the person was to contact it with their hands, for example, and rub their eyes or anything else.
You can get local
conjunctivitis, local infections, etc.
But even respiratory infections too, because these are waterborne bacteria. They're found, working in the ICU, I found these on my ventilator patients quite a bit. It's hard to tell if they're a contaminant or if they're an actual pathogen. If you're immunosuppressed, there's different types of, let's say, people that may be more susceptible to this than others. And that will manifest on what kind of reaction you might have.
That emphatic point is very important because, again, most people that have used these tests might think to themselves, well, it's a little drop, it's 3 drops, it's 6 drops, but enough. And it has been reported that, again, outside of these, infections in the eyes or whatever, there are serious consequences, and the serious illnesses have been reported with, like you mentioned, with these respiratory things, just with a couple of drops of bacteria in these solutions. Now, beyond that issue with these tests, now we have another issue that if the solution is not proper or contaminated, it's leading many times to false negative tests.
That's right.
Which is a big problem. So, I mean, we could either have false positive tests, which has its own problems, but talk to us about false negatives, which is bad.
Correct. So let's try to distinguish the two. So a false positive would be, and this gets kind of confusing, but a false positive would be if I had the virus, I should say, if I didn't have the virus and I tested, and then the test told me that I did have the virus.
Correct.
But this is the other way around. This is a false negative, meaning I have the virus. This test should pick it up, but it's not picking it up. So it's giving us a false negative, meaning that I will think that I'm not infected when I actually am. And so what's the danger with that, as opposed to a false positive? The danger with that is now you think, okay, I don't have the virus.
I'm okay.
I don't have to isolate, or I don't have to be careful, or I don't have to do whatever it is that I'm going to do.
You might even ignore some symptoms that you believe you may be having, Doc, and then not necessarily go out and seek the care that you need.
Correct. Or you won't go, exactly, you may not go to the doctor that day, or you may go in a week or what have you, or, you'll delay your care, or you won't get your care at all. So.
No, so again, on our, you can all follow us on our social media pages, anything that is LifeWallet, lifewallet.com, also on the web, you can visit us there. Right. But at the FDA, right, Doc, there are lists of these things, of products that are recalled, and we can give, or you can find the specific one as far as these tests there.
Yes.
Now, touching a little bit on...
Let me say something about that. If you really are concerned, I would go see your doctor or have a formal encounter when it comes to if you think that you may or may not be infected. If there really is a concern. If this is something that you just want to make a decision on whether you're going to go to work or not go to work, and your symptoms are mild, I would still consult with your doctor before testing yourself in any capacity.
And again, if you're unsure if you have one of these defective tests, then please look it up and consult your doctor, like Doc just mentioned. Now, in part of mitigating COVID was the testing.
Yes.
Another part of mitigating, and we know about masks, and we can have another program as far as the effectiveness of masks or not. But
that changes with the wind.
Exactly. But one thing that doesn't change with the wind is something that we said all along, and is science all along, is washing hands to mitigate. So we have, and we've had for the last 3 years, the debate. Soap or sanitizer.
Yeah.
So talk to us about the battle for cleanliness, Doc. Who
Yeah.
wins, sanitizer
Right.
or good old-fashioned hand soap?
Exactly. So the bottom line is, because of the pandemic, we've been obsessed with trying to stay clean or cleanliness, and because of its ease, what I see everywhere are the hand sanitizers. But in fact, it's the old-fashioned washing your hands that by far is superior to hand sanitizers.
All right.
You have to do it correctly. So what happens is you get the soap, right? Good old-fashioned soap. The soap forms what we call on a microscopic level these micelles, these fat type of molecules that then surround germs, whether it be bacteria, fungi, any kind of virus, even toxic chemicals. Like
chemicals.
Yes, exactly. Like say you put something on your hand like paint thinner, or something that you should have had gloves on, but it got on your hands, you soiled your hands. Washing your hands and washing them correctly is by far supremely the best thing to do. All the time, every time.
Yes.
So the way you do that is you get soap, you get water, old-fashioned, and you rub them together for about 20 seconds.
Lather
which is
it up real well?
Which is about the long time. Yes, it has to lather. Without lather, you're not really forming those micelles that we're talking about. And a good, something that we do in medicine that has been passed down is that you wash your hands for as long as you can sing row, row, row your boat.
Okay.
And that's the length of time that you should be washing your hands for. So that is, and then you have to dry your hands completely. They can't stay wet. So that's how you properly wash your hands, not just run your hands under the sink, rub them together, and I'm done. You need some kind of soap. If you're gonna use hand sanitizer, it's the next best thing, okay? It's better than nothing.
Right. Excellent point. We're not telling people not to use hand sanitizer, but where you have the option of both, soap and water will be more effective for a lot more things. Now, if you're visiting a loved one or a friend that's sick and the only thing available is a hand sanitizer, of course use it.
Of course,
now, we've had issues with some hand sanitizers out there that are not of the appropriate composition, right?
Yes.
Doc, there are different types of alcohols and things like that. So talk to us about that.
All right. So when it comes to hand sanitizers, let's just be clear. So they are bactericidal, meaning that they do kill bacteria. The way they do is that the alcohol itself kills the cell membrane of the bacteria. We're not talking about viruses and other things now. We're just talking about the way that it kills bacteria. But it does also have some capacity to help with viruses as well and fungal infections. You want to have at least 60% of alcohol base. Now you have to know what kind of alcohol. So it isn't the kind that you drink. It's not ethanol, okay, and it's not methanol, which is you might find that
methanol can be toxic.
Correct. It is toxic. It's very toxic. So it has to be the right kind of alcohol. Isopropyl alcohol would be one example of that, and that's predominantly what constitutes most hand sanitizers.
Exactly. Look at the labels there, and again, not to cause a panic or a stir, but there have been some of these hand sanitizers. Again, you can look at on the FDA that have been recalled. Avoid the methanol.
Yes.
At all costs, because that can be toxic.
Correct. That's a poison in and of itself, and should be treated as such.
Okay. Well, anyway, thank you, Doc. Very interesting conversation, like usual. We want to invite all of you to visit us on all our social media platforms at LifeWallet, LifeWallet Health, LifeWallet Health en Español, LifeWallet Legal. Anywhere LifeWallet, you can find us, as well as LifeWallet.com. I'm going to take 10 seconds to thank our amazing medical team. We've got Carolina Silva and Davey Levy that really help us with our research.
Absolutely.
Before we come on air.
Fantastic stuff.
Thank you, guys. It's always great. See us again, please. We'll see you soon.